let's get into another piece of news here that broke today that we were planning on talking about before the news even broke today. And then news broke today that added to the news that we were going to talk about today. And that's a very long way of starting off telling you guys that we think we might have some proof that Joe Schoen simply didn't want Saquon Barkley on the Giants. I know that's kind of a bold thing to suggest, but to some people. And it's funny how Giants fans have completely taken one side or the other. Saquon didn't want to be a Giant. Joe Schoen didn't want Saquon to be a Giant. One of the two camps. I'm on camp. Neither one wanted to be around each other.
Yeah. It was a failed marriage.
It was a very failed marriage. There was no counseling that was going to fix this problem.
And no one knew how to say goodbye until it was at the last moment.
Joe Schoen allowed it to be an open marriage, and then just didn't work out from there. So Barkley was interviewed by Dianni Russini of The Athletic for her Scoop City podcast. A snippet was released today here on Monday, and the full episode will be released tomorrow, just to give you guys a heads up if you all want to listen to it there. But this is what the snippet said. This was Saquon Barkley talking about, this is right after the conversation in Hard Knocks there that they had, where it's the most awkward beginning to a conversation. And then Joe Schoen tells him basically that we're going to let you test the open market. And this is what he said. He said, it was over after that phone call, in my opinion. I'd never in my heart truly believed that they were going to match it, or they only wanted me to keep me. They only wanted me for a lower price. So no matter what, I probably wasn't going to go back. Now, that's Saquon basically saying he was done.
Yeah.
But not because he necessarily wanted to, but because he felt like they were done. So, the question is, was Saquon right? And did the Giants not really want him back? So, did some deep diving into numbers here. We did a little counting. They came out like jazz hands. So supposed to be typing.
I was about to say. Count Drew. Fix that hat. Man in there.
Stick a little cane. But here's what basically the deal was. That the hypothetical deal we're gonna call it, because again, it was never officially offered to Saquon, but it's the hypothetical that Joe Schoen threw at him. He said 3 years, and he gave it per year, but we're gonna give you a total $37.8 million, $26 million guaranteed. Oh, I'm sorry, hold on, I gave it wrong. This is what the Eagles gave him. We offered him the hypothetical 3 years, $37.5 million, $25 million guaranteed. So the Eagles gave him 3 years, $37.8 million, $26 million guaranteed. So you're talking a difference of $300,000 and $1 million in guarantee. That's the only difference.
Now, a different market and a different. Yeah, you're going to give up the potential of, a third of a million to $1 million to tarnish your legacy, to be in a situation where you could be, a Giant for life, the future Hall of Famer for the Giants, the Ring of Honor. It says a lot in his behalf.
I think it says a lot on both behalves, though, honestly. So
it does.
Let's go back to Hard Knocks here for a second, the last episode. The Giants upped their offer to John Runyon Jr. to make sure the Jets didn't get him. They projected his value at $8 to $9 million and gave him $10 million. They upped their offer to Jermaine Illuminor to make sure the Cardinals didn't get him. They had him at $5 to $6 million, gave him $7 million a year. They upped their offer to Drew Lock to make sure the Seahawks didn't get him back. They valued him at $4 million, gave him $5 million. To match the Eagles' offer, all the Giants had to do was an additional $100,000 per year and $1 million additional guaranteed money. As soon as Joe Schoen heard the best offer, again, we don't know what's said on Ed Berry's side. I'm not trying to pretend we have all these, information here. But you heard what happened. He was given the best offer that Saquon had and said, we're out. That's what he was told. He said, we're out. We heard him say it. All the
Yeah.
Giants had to do to match the offer that the Eagles gave him, assuming the Eagles were the best offer, when that's the one he takes, you have to assume that's probably the case, was $100,000 a year and $1 million in guaranteed salary. Why would he increase all of those offers for all those other players, but not Barkley? Leads me to believe that Saquon was not necessarily wrong, that Joe Schoen simply didn't want him.
Yeah.
So I know a lot of people are out there vilifying Saquon Barkley, trying to make him seem like the villain here. And I think that's the way Joe Schoen kind of wrapped it up to make it seem like. I really do think that, because he knew somebody had to be the villain and he didn't want it to be him. But in the end, if you're going to pick a villain, it's actually Joe Schoen, I think. But I don't think either one of them has to be the villain. You can just sit there and say the Giants wanted to move on. The problem is the Giants didn't just say, I want to move on. If Joe Schoen had simply said to him, listen, we're probably not in. If you drop your offer, where you think you're going to be at money-wise big time, let us know. It's not that we don't want you. We have other needs we need to focus our money on right now. I think that would have gone over a lot better.
From a business point, yes. But when you're talking to an individual that you need to work in a relationship going forward, and it's a lot harder to say something as a transaction like, you're right. You play with us through your prime. Did you get paid the best? Don't go out and get the best money you can. Stay with us. We would like your talent, but we don't want to pay to what you think you can get.
No, but you can say
that goes
saying that. Stay with us. Don't get your talent. You can sit there and say, we don't think we can afford to keep you. We would love to have you if the price happens to drop, but we're going to let you free. We're not going to try to cage you up at that point. Get your best offer. If you want,
that's a little different from what you're saying before, but like that's.
But that's all the wording.
Yeah, it's because at the end of the day, like the biggest thing that Shane talked about was his medical, his history, his medical history, and
everybody has access to that. I mean, let's be honest.
You're not wrong, but
they had that. And talked about as far as that. So Beeb's already sitting there saying, it all came time to the medical, which we know and other people don't. So don't have to know so much when you don't. That's BS. I'm sorry, Beeb. Much respect to you, because we appreciate you tuning in here. But that's BS, because every single team brings people in for visits. Every single team has medical staff go over them with a fine-tooth comb before they sign the dotted line. Look at, for example, a couple of years ago, we got, what's his name? Kyle Rudolph. Remember, we found something wrong with him. We still had him sign the contract. We still did the contract with him. But every team has a chance to find this stuff out.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm trying to say. Watching Hard Knocks, let's go back. You're right. Shane probably didn't want him back, but it wasn't about the history, all that. It was, he went through the business aspect, and when he talks in Hard Knocks, sometimes it looks like it's very hard for him to put the emotional aspect of these are not just assets, but they're also players and individuals. Like when he talks down about the team, which these players are also assets, he has a better idea and understanding how to say, I need this asset. I would like this asset. We can't afford this asset. But there's a difference of saying that and saying it to a person. So when he went over Barkley's medical stat, his history, and talked about his age and talked about how he's played, he broke him down as an asset. And you can't say that to a player, is all I'm trying to get at.
You can, though. And I don't think
not the way you're also not listening to what I'm saying. That's not the way he's talking, but not the way he could say it. So for him, the best way is to say what he said.
I don't think he sees these players as people so much. I think he sees them as assets. I really do. I think the problem is but you're saying like he sees them as players and assets and tries to.
No, he doesn't know how to break them down. He doesn't know how to say it differently. Like he doesn't. I don't think he has the ability to differentiate the player and the asset. Like you're players, so you're an asset. That's fine, but he doesn't know how to break it down to the individual level. So when he's going to tell you, like, hey, listen, I don't want you to be on this team because we can't afford you. And you know, you just got too much tread on those tires, and you get beat up a lot. And you've just been a workhorse. And stats say that if you're not, you know, King Henry, you're pretty much going to get a flat tire every season, and we just don't want that. Like,
See, I just think to me this wrong way of dealing with people. Like, if you don't want somebody on your team, then whatever the reason is, if
but
it's
that's when you look
money,
at the person as a player and a person and not an asset.
but you can say that. And the problem is, if you keep doing that kind of aspect, especially people that have been the face of a franchise, done right by the team, and all that kind of stuff, there, you're going to gain a reputation, and that's not a reputation you want. Because in the end, some things are small deciding factors of where you play for, and you know that's one of those deciding factors. I just don't like the way Shane handled it personally. I don't like the way Barkley did either. Don't get me wrong, but I think we talked about it before, where neither one of them wanted to be the victim. I think, or the villain. Sorry, but I think in the end, Shane set it up into that method where like Barkley had to go into like, how do I protect my image and how do I protect myself? Granted, him picking the Eagles is probably the worst way of protecting his image.
Yeah.
But I think that in the end, like, you're going to see Barkley now, and we'll get the whole thing tomorrow, obviously, as far as that. But I think Barkley's now going on the offensive because Shane is trying to make it appear like Barkley's the one that like didn't want to be a Giant and didn't want this and that. Which, first off, I'll say this, Barkley, if that was a legit offer, you should have taken the offer. Because what you would have made as a New York Giant for the next 3 years in endorsements, being the face of the franchise and everything, as opposed to just being another Eagle, would have been a whole lot more money. I definitely think that part of it. But
most likely. Be comparable.
He went somewhere he felt like he was wanted. I don't think he felt wanted by the Giants. And quite frankly, I don't think he was wanted, except for by John Mara. John Mara's the one guy's like, we need this guy. Like, I mean, like the scouts and the GM team and stuff that were in the room and all, like, they all wanted him. But I think they all recognized we're not making moves. And here's what it all boils down to if you're a Giant fan, as far as whether or not you think it's the right move or the wrong move. Did you want Brian Burns? You can talk all about the offensive line changes and all that kind of stuff all you want. Did you want Brian Burns? Because if you think about it, Brian Burns is getting almost as much as Saquon and Xavier McKinney put together.
Yep.
That's the thing. And I don't know why people don't just call it like it is that Joe Schoen wanted to focus on the line. And to get a top pass rusher in this league is going to cost you a ton of money. It's a very expensive position. He chose Brian Burns over those two. Right or wrong, we'll find out in the next couple of years. Because anybody who thinks they know right or wrong, it's impossible, guys. If Saquon is a beast the next 3 years with that Philly offensive line, yeah, it's not going to look so good. But if Brian Burns lights it up,
he's a player that everyone thinks he's going to be,
then you have the argument either way. Now, if Barkley sucks and gets hurt or isn't the same player and Burns is like he's been, then the Giants will play the winners. That's what I'm saying. There's a couple different ways this whole thing can go, you know? Where they both could suck, and then we both could. We had no way to win either way. You never know. Yeah. That's the NFL. That's the fun of it. Like, year after year, every player is different. Every team is different. You know, that's what I really do love about it, you know? But I just think that in the end, we got to recognize what's going on here. And that we like to kind of pick sides and pick a villain. And there's no villain here, guys. The only villain is the whole way this whole thing went about, because people just didn't have the huevos, the balls to sit there and say, Saquon, I don't want you on the team. Or Saquon going, Joe, I don't want to be in the team. Because they were both done with each other.
Or they both overread the situation and had no idea that the other person wanted the other person to be there, but there was no open line of communication. So how were they supposed to know? People just talk to one another. That's all you're not trying to say.
We're going to bring in Dr. Phil for this segment.
Yeah.
Dr. Phil. No, I'm not a real doctor.
But open line of communications goes a long way, okay?
Communication is key. You started to Mr. Garrison halfway through this conversation there.
Mackie.
Whatever it is. See some guy.
If you like that clip, then you will love the full episodes too. Find us on your favorite podcast app and look for us on all your favorite social media platforms.
Thanks so much.
Please, I'm begging you. Please subscribe.